vanquishing your enemies.
You're listening to Real Coaching Radio. Building a positive network.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audiblepodcast.com/RCRN. Over 75,000 titles to choose from for your iPod or MP3 player.
Would you like to know how to play the game of life? Did you know there is a game? The game is the energy game. Everything is energy. So what are the tools and the rules for this game? If you don't know the rules and don't have any tools, you'll lose the game. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dean Allen, PhD, and Coach Steve Toth, to take you on a journey of discovery. How to play the game of life.
Welcome, everybody, to the Consciousness System Show on Real Coaching Radio Network with your host, Dr. Dean Allen, and your co-host, myself, Coach Steve Toth, your executive producer, as well as the founder of Real Coaching Radio Network. We welcome everybody back to the show. And this week, we're going to be talking about Chapter 10, which is creating wins. And Dr. Allen is going to take us through a whole number of insights about this chapter of his book, How to Win the Game of Life. And I just can't wait because I love wins, Doc.
Yes, don't we all?
I'm hooked.
What else is there?
I'm addicted to wins.
The only thing worthy of fulfillment is to win or get what you really want or what your spirit really wants.
And you know what, Doc, you know what I just discovered?
What?
Sometimes when it looks like you are losing on the outside, it's actually a win.
Exactly. And that's a very confusing point and extremely relevant. In fact, I've told clients for years, if you think you're getting worse, you may be getting better. And if you think you're getting better, you may be getting worse. Because it works in that weird sort of way that when you're getting better, many times what you're doing is you're letting go of negative energy. And as you let go of negative energy, that may create symptoms. And if you interpret the symptoms as you're getting worse and stop what you're doing, you'll be thinking you're getting better when you're actually getting worse.
Wow, that's cool.
So we have to be very conscious of these tricky little twists that really match reality quite well unless we misinterpret them. So creating wins comes from being clear enough, quick enough to play life's game ahead of the curve where all winners win.
Wow. What do you mean by ahead of the curve?
Well, ahead of the curve really comes down to what we call processing time. And processing time is how quick can you go from a clear perception of the problem that shines light on the solution that eliminates the problem and then enact it so that the problem is eliminated. That cycle from perception to expression that eliminates the problem is called processing time. And that defines personal power. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, it really comes down to that. If it's a game, it's to figure out the problems of the game and solve them. If it's your life, it's to figure out the problems of your life and solve it. In other words, get a clear view of what the problem is so that the solution, the elegant solution, will be revealed, because the elegant solution is always the elimination of the problem. And the elimination of the problem is to not create the problem in the first place. And of course, that decision is basically made on an unconscious level. And our unconscious decisions, primarily, worst case scenarios, come from trauma memory, which causes us to make decisions in the present as if we were in the past. And when we do that, we recreate the problems of the past in our present and our future until we become conscious enough to get ahead of the curve. And the curve basically is a good way to see the three basic places that humans fall in terms of processing. And the first one is ahead of the curve, where all winners play and all winners win. In fact, being ahead of the curve is what defines winning. The winner is the one who's the furthest ahead of the curve. And so if you're in that position, you make things happen. If you're not quite that clear and that quick, instead of being ahead of the curve, you'll be in the curve. And if you're in the curve, you will watch things happen. And those who are less clear and less able to process more quickly, they will end up playing the game of life behind the curve. And those who play it behind the curve, they wonder what the hell happened.
I love how you describe that, Doc, because it is so true.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
It's just, it's unquestionable how you just described it, that is exactly how it goes down.
Exactly. So the first insight is the law of creation. And the law of creation is what we focus on is what we create. So we must focus on solutions to create solutions instead of focusing on problems.
Was that a question? Doc? Where did you go? Doc has disappeared. The electricity must be gone. Here he is.
Yeah, here we go.
Did the electricity go out?
I don't know what happened. You were just gone all of a sudden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I just keep talking, Doc.
Oh, good. So what did you say?
I just said, well, where did Doc go? And I said,
well,
was that...
so anyway, we can get back to where we were. So I'm not sure what was the last thing before I cut out. Do we know that? Maybe I should go over the first insight again in case...
Yeah, you just said the insight. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I think what I probably said afterwards was, did that make sense? Does it make sense when we focus on the solution, we create the solution, and when we focus on the problem, we create the problem?
Right. Now,
And
here's what's
it's very important to be able to see that, or we'll miss it. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm missing it, but if I am, please point that out to me. But here's the thing, that a lot of people are misbelievers in the laws of the universe.
Oh yeah,
Like, they
that's
just go
the
like,
primary
oh, well,
problem, confusion.
That's just that's like they say, that's like hogwash. So you say you say one of the laws, which is the laws of attraction. So whatever it is that you think about or focus on is what you create. And
Yeah.
they say,
Exactly.
what are you
Same
talking
thing.
about? You mean if I keep thinking about winning the lottery, I'll win the lottery? No. But here's the thing. All they have to do to prove that the law of attraction works
Uh-huh.
is look at their current results in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
Oh,
not
yeah,
convenient.
It's all right there.
It's not convenient, though.
Well, it's not convenient for the dragon. The dragon hates the light, so it's just not into all this talk about the light and the truth and the way things work, because it gets its power from fear, force, manipulation, deception, and confusion. And if it's not about that, then it's not the dragon's game. And of course, guess what game the dragon likes to play the most?
Well,
The
there's
dragon's
something wrong
game,
with
which
you.
is a game of drag.
Yeah. Yeah.
See? So it's
You need to-
solutions of not. So all the dragon solutions are to not do this, counterbalanced by not doing that. Well, when you do the math on that, it's 1 minus 1 equals 0, which is degenerative in nature and not sustainable.
Did you say the dragon wants you to do, which is not doing that or not doing this, counterbalanced by not doing that?
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
That's hilarious. And people are busy doing that all day.
Well, and look how much energy it takes up. And of course it accomplishes nothing, so they're just moving as fast as they can, but it's going in a circle, see? And it's not about how fast you go in that circle. Because if you look at it from a higher perspective, you're not going anywhere. Just fast in a circle.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's very important to get the visual, because that's a good part of what we've got to see. So this leads us into the next insight, which is insight 56, which is the elegant solution is to focus 5% of our time and energy on the problem in order to identify what the problem is, which gives us the solution, which would eliminate the problem. So see, once we understand what's creating the problem, and then if we change that to create the solution, that eliminates the problem. So 5% focus on the problem to identify what the problem is, and then 95% of our time and energy is focused on the solution to create it, which eliminates the problem.
Right. Most
Now
people,
that's a formula that will work.
but most people do the opposite.
And they create more problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And never create solutions, and they can't figure out why. Well, this is why. Because if you do it this way, it can't work any other way. See?
Yeah. No, I see it completely. So we're gonna have to go to our first commercial break, Doc.
Okay.
Because it's that time.
All right.
But before we do, I just wanted to remind all of our listeners all over Internet land and podcast land that Dr. Dean Allen is doing a seminar on October the 1st through the 3rd and we have an early bird special going on, and we had it going on now for I think 3 weeks, and tonight is the night that it ends. And if you register by midnight tonight, you can still save 25% of that course. And to find out more about it and to register, go to www.lifeenergygame.info. And with that, we go into our wonderful commercials.
Let me say a little bit about this, because basically what the seminar is about is to teach the language, and it's the language of the body that everybody operates on, whether they know what it is or not. Of course, the advantage of knowing the language is to be able to use it more effectively in your life, body, business, relationship, health, wellness, everything, because everything is a mirror image of each other. So as we learn these organs and glands, which is what I call the tools, we are able to connect with their power, understand how they work, use them the way they work. And at this point, I've been doing this for 23 years with thousands of clients, and I can tell you it changes your life dramatically if you follow through and do it. And the first thing you need to do it is understand the language. So that's what the seminar is all about. And we even put it to music so that it's easier to understand and remember.
Yeah, that's great, Doc. And actually, something just came up that I wanted to ask you that's related to this. So when people are listening to this information, and this is really connected to how we visualize and see the world, and then how do we connect to our feelings about it. So my question to you is, when people hear this kind of information, the very first place they jump to is some conclusions based on their past and based on what they heard before, and they start into perceptions and judgments. How is it that we can make a difference for people, so that, because I'm convinced that people have never heard of anything like this before.
Oh,
so I'm wondering,
that's true.
Doc, I'm wondering, when they first hear it, where do they go?
Well, they go wherever it triggers, or whatever it triggers in their memory. And here's the really kind of unfortunate part, but it's the basic reality out there, is that we live in an extremely skeptical world. You know, I've never lived anywhere else, so I don't know, but I know in this country it is extremely skeptical. And so just getting through the initial filters is almost impossible. Because people have heard so much crap about so many things, and everything's supposed to be the thing that saves you from everything, you know. And you hear that all day, every day, from everywhere. You don't know what to believe.
Right, and that's exactly why I brought this up.
Yeah, exactly. And what I can tell you in support of this is that, you know, at this point, after having done this for 23 years with people, here's the way that I judge any system that has to do with working with humans. And that is, I ask this question: no matter what the system is, are you able to take individual information on an unconscious level from that person without them directly, you know, consciously being involved in it, and then translate that into the specific decisions that they're making daily that are actually creating, enabling, and maintaining that problem? Because if you can't do that, you're going to have a hard time changing that person, no matter what it is, because in order for them to change, they have to become conscious of better decisions quicker that lead to the solution rather than continue the problem. And so far, this is really about the only system that I found that really deals with people on that level. There may be a couple others that I'm checking out that are out there now, but I've been doing this one for 23 years, and it is based on real science of human functioning, based on an organic format which starts off at conception with 23 memory banks from your mother and your father, which come together to create the 23 energies that at birth show up as 23 organ, gland, energy systems, each of which have a very specific purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. And as you learn those and can identify those in your life, of course you're going to have more personal power because you're going to be able to process reality more clearly and quickly. And, of course, that's what we're doing with the organs and glands, which is the first step to teaching.
Right, and we'll continue this great conversation, Doc, as soon as we come back from these messages. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Real Coaching Radio. Building a positive network.
For you, the listeners of Real Coaching Radio Network's live shows and podcasts, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 14-day trial to give you a chance to check out their service. We recommend The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav or another audiobook free by trying Audible.com. To download your free audiobook today, go to www.audiblepodcast.com/RCRN. Again, that's www.audiblepodcast.com/RCRN for your free audiobook.
Discover how to create your extraordinary life with personal coaching sessions and all the ongoing support you'll need to define your vision, realize success, and create your extraordinary life. Join our online Ask a Coach program and connect with one of our expert coaches in the areas of health, personal finance, relationships, personal growth, environment, career, and spirituality. Go to www.askacoach.us and register.
Our spiritual development is a journey that needs deep personal commitment to have a lasting impact on our lives. A high level of awareness is the beginning of all areas of success in our life. With our spiritual house in order, our relationships, finances, and health find a powerful balance. For you, your friends, and your family, there is a new online community with goal-setting tools and professional experts to help you create your own spiritual plan and put it into practice. Listen now for details from your radio show host.
You're listening to Real Coaching Radio. Building a positive network.
Intro.
It hasn't been easy for you, my friend.
All right, we're back. I had to put Christy on for a second.
Yes.
I had to hear that beautiful voice.
Yes.
Okay, we're back. If you're just tuning in, you are watching or listening to the Consciousness Systems Show on Real Coaching Radio Network with your host, Dr. Dean Allen, and your co-host, myself, Coach Steve Toth, your executive producer as well as the founder of Real Coaching Radio Network. And we're talking about and discussing and going through Dr. Dean's book, How to Win the Game of Life. And we're in chapter 10, which is about creating wins. And Dr. Allen is taking us through all the insights. So,
right. and I think we're up to 57.
Awesome. I love these. I wish, Doc, somehow we could download this to everybody's brain and then invite them to the show.
Well, best we can do now is download it to their computer, and it's basically serve as a written review of all of these. And I wanted to say that Christy and I just finished the editing of the update of the book, so all of you that already have the book can re-upload the new version at no cost, and those of you that are just getting the book, why, you will either get the old one and then upgrade to this one, or you can get this one when it's there. So either way, why, it's the same book.
Awesome.
So this time, instead of calling them tweets, which is what it's called in the other book, since it was entitled Tweets of Consciousness, they're now insights. And what we've done is we've given ourselves a little bit more space to explain some of these insights, usually in no more than a sentence or maybe two, because I think it's very important to have them brief enough that we can get the kernel of the whole insight. And basically, they're designed to build on one another, because as soon as you start building these insights on other insights, which are based on clarity rather than confusion, all of a sudden you're going to get more power simply because you're going to see reality clearer, quicker. And of course, that's what we call playing ahead of the curve. That's where we started off, as you remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
right,
Insight 57 is... did you have something to say there, Steve?
No. We were talking about the law of attraction. And, yeah, that's what you were discussing before the break. And I was just curious about, do we have any practical solutions to get people to connect their feelings to what they seeing and experiencing in the world? Because I think that's where most of this is breaking down, and men specifically are so good at it, not to be in touch with what they're feeling.
Well, and see, what happens is that instead of being open enough to listen long enough to decide based on what is actually being said, whether it makes any sense or not, what we have gotten used to do, and this is the skeptical society that I was talking about, what we've gotten used to is starting off assuming that it's all crap. No, that's true.
That reminds me too.
And so then, if there's anything that the dragons can associate with well-known crap, that'll be the first thing they're looking for.
That reminds me to communism. You are guilty until proven innocent.
There you go. But this is familiar to you. This is what we call dragon strategy.
Yeah.
It's based on fear and defense. Problem is, it's a very expensive way to survive, because when you do the math, it's 1 minus 1 equals 0. Drag on this, counterbalanced by a drag on that.
Yep. Got it.
You can't do what you want because you have to spend all of your energy learning how to survive not having what you want in order to make it through the day.
So that you can get up in the morning tomorrow and do it again.
Yeah, there you go. And that's the dragon solution, one day at a time.
But in the meantime, You're buying products. You're buying Coke. You're buying burgers.
Right. Right. Yeah. Anything that will increase the drag. See, because that's the solution. You got to have more drag to counterbalance this with that. You know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It just fits like a perfect puzzle together once you see it clearly.
And I thought, Doc, when I was growing up, communism was a problem. I elevated it to the entire planet.
But what you were really talking about is drag.
Yes. It wasn't just communism. It's the entire...
much bigger than that.
Yeah, it's the entire human being.
Exactly. It's when the drag takes over, that's what it looks like. And it's not very productive because it's defensive, which is non-productive. No points for defense, remember?
Right. Right on. This is absolutely amazing.
Well, it's just reality is all it is.
Yes.
And unfortunately, coming from living in a world that is in many ways very disconnected from reality, reality becomes amazing. Because there's so little of it when you look around sometimes. So, insight number 57, energy always functions according to the laws of energy. Consciousness for how the laws work gives us personal power. So everything is energy. Energy always operates according to the laws of energy. And consciousness for that energy and the laws of that energy and how it works gives us personal power. Because we are consciously aligning our decisions and actions with the laws or the force, so the force is with us. So when you act the way your spleen acts, you regenerate your spleen. If you act the way that your spleen doesn't act, in other words, the spleen is a rejection organ, and if you have a trauma of rejection which creates a drag on the spleen, being able to reject that which antagonizes you and disrespects you, then you create a drag on the spleen, and over time that'll degenerate the spleen and you'll have allergies. See?
Yeah, I do.
And every organ has a scenario like that, or many of them more than one, but there'll be one basic scenario, which is the way of the dragon for the organ or the way of the spirit. And the spirit will regenerate the organ if expressed, and the dragon will degenerate the organ if suppressed. It's a very simple system.
Yeah, and you overlaid this on our emotions.
Right.
Our emotional...
Well, look at the word emotion. Emotion is emotion or energy motion.
Right.
So either the energy is in motion, which means it's flowing, or it's in drag, which means it's stuck. So healthy emotions is the ability to connect with and express what we feel in a clear, quick, appropriate way, so we have personal power.
Yes, and really this entire discussion and conversation is really about helping people to not to become conscious, because that requires something of the individual. But once you are conscious, is your ability to create consciousness faster and to become more and more conscious. And why would we want that, Doc?
Well, because it gives you personal power. Because when your concepts, see, this is what it's really all about, is you have to be able to believe in what is true. In other words, your concepts, that's what you use to believe anything, is concepts in your mind. And when those concepts align energetically with what is real, and of course each one of your organs and glands is a different energy with a different purpose, plan, function, issue, and trauma. So when your concepts of who you are align with who you are energetically, don't you think that's going to give you a lot more power than if they don't?
Oh yes, I believe it will.
Well, it does.
Where
and at this point, I've seen thousands of clients who make this alignment and go, wow, what happened in my life?
To the point where we can really create whatever it is that we want.
Well, and that's what happens because you start focusing on the solution, and therefore you start creating the solution. And the reason you do is because you become conscious enough to see what the problem is, and the solution is to eliminate the problem, which is to eliminate the creation of the problem, which always comes down to drag on spirit, life, force, energy flow. There it is.
Yeah, so this time, once you become more and more conscious, it's about really creating and becoming the creator.
Making things happen ahead of the curve rather than watching things happen in the curve or wondering what the hell happened behind the curve.
That's very elegant.
Right.
I can't think of a better way to describe that. Yep. So when people talk about they want to be happy, it's like people always talk about, and it's such a weird concept because happiness can be described a million ways. There is no one way to describe happiness.
Well, happiness
It's
basically
elusive.
relates to a feeling of being nurtured. And it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. Now that's the stomach emotion, and the stomach dragon is about enduring and surviving, not being happy. Well, guess what? That never makes you happier.
Yeah, that's funny. We have a comment in the chat room, in one of the chat rooms that we're monitoring. It happens to be Levi. and he says, my wife makes me feel happy. And I want to put an adjustment in there for me. It isn't your wife that makes you happy. It's you that makes you happy, perceiving your wife in a certain way.
Right.
She does not have
and no matter what makes him happy is feeling nurtured. So his wife is doing something that makes him feel nurtured, else he would not be happy.
Right. Right, but it's us that are doing the feeling of being
it's
happy.
the way we're processing whatever's happening.
Right, she's not doing it to him.
Right.
It's him.
It
it's
always,
him doing
and
it to
this
him.
is the problem that with psychology is that it always comes down to perception. See, reality may still be there in terms of laws of energy, but we can perceive anything you can imagine. which can be pretty, off base and out of alignment. But it doesn't matter. If we believe it, why, on a conscious level, that's our truth. Now, if it comes into conflict with energetically on an unconscious level, well, then that's what creates problems, and this is why I say confusion is the primary human problem, because as soon as our thinking or our concepts misalign with reality, that creates problems.
Awesome, Doc.
So, Insight 58. Winning at life means performing in the moment more clearly, quickly, and appropriately, so you win more points and fewer penalties. So no matter what you're doing, it's all about performing in the moment. In the stock market, what's it about? It's about performance. In Hollywood, in the movies, what's it about? It's about performance. Nobody gets paid for anything else.
Sports.
Yeah. On a more personal level, in bed, what's it all about? Performance.
You had to bring that up.
I just wanted to point out that it's always about performance. And the ability to perform on cue in the moment. Same thing everywhere. And we know from the learning curve where peak performance is in terms of being able to deliver spontaneously, and it peaks at about 0.5 of a second, 0.5 second, and after 1.1 second, you've lost your believability because there's too much hesitation to be believable. So it doesn't work.
Wow.
So the formula that works is to be able to spontaneously perceive what you see and feel, and spontaneously respond with that in terms of what you say and do in the perfect tone of voice, which is conversational tone, and body language, which is upright, and then be able to do it with a smile and a loving intention. And this is the kind of performance they give the Academy Awards for this very reason. So ultimately, it comes down to your ability to perform spontaneously in the moment and be real and truly connected to yourself. And your 23 organ gland energy systems, each of which have a very specific emotion and feeling and function and purpose and trauma. And getting ahead of that trauma memory for each of these organs is really what gives you your power, because you immediately go from operating out of drag to operating out of expression, and then learn how to perform it more clearly, quickly, and appropriately. And as soon as you do that, you get power. Make sense?
What do you mean? What do you mean by appropriately?
Well, appropriately, it really comes down to what works, because appropriately is not defined by whether somebody else likes it, because what we know going into it is that the more light that is contained in it, the less the dragons are going to like it. So it can't be appropriate, can't be defined by whether other people like it or not. Appropriate is really what works. In other words, it's the right dose at the right time. And it needs to be as effective as possible in order to be productive. And appropriateness is really an energy call, and that's why it's the right dose at the right time. It's a feeling that that's the best you can do. You didn't go too much, and you didn't go not enough.
Okay,
which
cool.
Which is what dragons always do.
Yeah, that makes sense. So earlier when we were talking about Levi and how his wife is nurturing him,
Right.
we had another question, and the question is, does that mean that I can get back to my partner making me happy? Go ahead, Doc. How would you respond to that?
Well, it always comes from yourself first, because the first connection is with your systems, your 23 organs and glands, and each one of them has a perceptual input and an expressive output. And the first thing you're going to have to be happy is to be true to yourself. Otherwise, you're in defense, and over time, that's going to drain you. So the first connection is the most important, and that's the ability to feel worthy of love and to feel accepted, which is the operative word for love. Because if you don't feel accepted, you don't feel loved. So that's really the beginning point. Once you can get there, then you will have a clear perception of those that are really with you and working with you, which is where true love is, and those that are not working with you or working against you and maybe trying to act like they're working with you, which is what dragons do. And that's why the first step to playing the game above zero, where you can get points, is discrimination on the uptake. In other words, you've got to be able to discern and discriminate between dragon energy and spirit energy. And remember, there's two words for spirit energy, which is love and light. 5 words for dragon energy, which is fear, force, manipulation, deception, and confusion. If it looks like a dragon, smells like a dragon, acts like a dragon, could be a dragon.
It's not could be. It is.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to sound overconfident here, you know.
If it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck.
Exactly.
It's a freaking duck.
That's what I found. Every time I see a duck like that, why, it turns out to be a duck.
Okay. We gotta go to another commercial. Don't go
Okay.
anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Real Coaching Radio. Building a positive network.
Discover how to create your extraordinary life with personal coaching sessions and all the ongoing support you'll need to define your vision, realize success, and create your extraordinary life. Join our online Ask a Coach program and connect with one of our expert coaches in the areas of health, personal finance, relationships, personal growth, environment, career, and spirituality. Go to www.askacoach.us and register.
For you, the listeners of Real Coaching Radio Network's live shows and podcasts, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 14-day trial to give you a chance to check out their service. We recommend The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav or another audiobook free by trying audible.com. To download your free audiobook today, go to www.audiblepodcast.com/RCRN. Again, that's www.audiblepodcast.com/RCRN for your free audiobook.
What do you get when you mix dozens of experts, personal development tools, and a community of family and friends with your dreams and aspirations? Life-changing results without a lifetime of effort. Now you can work with all of your clients online, promote your business with a new and exciting professional expert directory, and meet new potential clients. Save time and make money with every client online. Come be a part of a great new community for self-improvement. Listen now for details from your radio show host.
You're listening to Real Coaching Radio, building a positive network.
In a moment of grace, I saw it, how I'd created the things that I feared.
All right, we are back.
All
if
right.
you're just tuning in, of course you are watching and listening to, who else? Dr. Dean Allen, the father of consciousness.
Well, I don't know about that, but actually William James was the father of consciousness, which is really the father of psychology also. And psychology started off as a science of consciousness and then was basically kidnapped, I guess, by the behaviorists out of embarrassment that they didn't have physical measurement like medical science did. And so the behaviorists created their own kind of measurement and got everything operating and focused more outside the person than on the inside in consciousness. But psychology actually started off as a science of consciousness.
Wow. Too bad he didn't stay there.
Yeah, it is. And I think we are getting back there. And in fact, this relates to the next insight, which is insight number 59, which says, only consciousness of where, when, how, and who, and what things trigger our past memory decisions can give us conscious choices. So in other words, we have to become conscious of reality in order to have conscious choices about reality. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So only consciousness can give us conscious choices.
Which, of course, all has to do
Otherwise,
with...
by definition, we are making unconscious choices, which means that they're not aligned with the reality of energy and the laws of energy and the ways of energy.
Yes, and I think what I was going to say earlier is that all has to do with at what frequency we are vibrating as well.
Which is
And,
basically what consciousness is.
Yes. And I'm just noticing that in order to continue to keep vibrating at a higher and higher frequency, we got to have everything in our life in order.
Right.
Like how you influenced me about my health. Like I knew about that for a long time, but I never gave it enough attention. And
connected the dots is what it usually is. And see, that's really what we're doing for people, hopefully, in these shows, is helping to connect the dots. Because it's like one of those picture puzzles where you have all of these dots, and if you connect the dots in the right way, you create a picture. And then once you see the picture, you get what we call the aha. It's like, oh, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Oh. And see, that's really important because now you can see how the game works, so you can play the game the way it works. Yeah, otherwise, without consciousness, you can't do that. So you can't make conscious choices, so you can't really create and produce according to the laws of energy, because your concepts need to align with rather than conflict with reality.
Yeah, and it's just from personal experience. I wanted to share that for the benefit of the listeners, is that it isn't that I didn't connect the dots before about my health, because I always have. But for some reason, Doc, it is only now that I'm motivated to do something about it, because I can see that how I'm growing and where I'm heading.
Right.
This cannot be tolerated anymore.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and I can tell you exactly what has happened, too, because it's the only way it can happen. Your spirit has gained more power. And the way it gains more power is you feed it more, and when you start feeding it, it gets stronger, and when it gets stronger, it makes more of your decisions and actions. And it also sees a bigger picture clearer somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm watching it, and experiencing how it's all happening. It's like, I'm having my conversations with Lori, and now, she's my coach, nutritional coach, and now we're gonna do a show together. That's really the first, very first reality show on Real Coaching Radio Network. And I'm going to let people into my world about my issue, my health, and my weight issue, and what I'm doing about it. And I'm going to let them see and take them through the whole process of what Lori does. And everybody wins.
That's the ground level view that people really need, because that's reality there. Now we're down to the nitty-gritty, and we're dealing with the day-to-day issues.
Yeah, we're not going to just talk about it. We're going to...
Right.
Because talk is cheap.
Yeah.
We're going to show everybody, these are the rules, by your words, that my nutrition is set up for me. And this is how the game is played. And this is how I'm playing it.
Right.
And I'm going to let people see...
That's that's a great concept.
Yeah, I mean,
Good job.
There is no way that all of us are not going to win here.
Yeah,
I'm going to win.
Exactly.
Lori's going to win. Everybody that listens and watches is going to win, because they actually get to be part of the entire reality of what I'm creating.
Yeah. And everybody gets to see it at the performance level, see? Because here again, guess what it comes down to? Performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta...
And those performances are at critical moments of truth. In other words, do you buy a Twinkie or an apple?
Yes. Do I go to a fast food restaurant, Or
Right.
do I go make a salad?
Right. And learn how to make one that is really tasty so you don't want to go to a fast food